Fellas, you know Degree Cool Rush deodorant, right? Well, last year they changed the formula, and guys were mad about it. One dude even started a petition. So guess what? Degree heard us, admitted they messed up, and brought the original Cool Rush scent back exactly how it was. And it's in Walmart, Target, and other stores now for under $4. So grab some and remember why its cool, crisp, and fresh scent made it the #1 men's antiperspirant for the last decade. Degree Cool Rush is back, and it smells like victory for all of us.
Auto insurance can all seem the same until it comes time to use it. So don't get stuck paying more for less coverage. Switch to USAA Auto Insurance and you could start saving money in no time. Get a quote today. Restrictions apply.
USAA. Hilton brings you new ways to stay. With experiences that let you capture the glory days. Introducing the Graduate Hotels. Each inspired by local college towns, these stays are always original and never boring. Get in touch with traditions all across the country and enjoy a stay that's a class above the rest. Book at Graduate Hotels with Hilton Honors Points at Hilton.com. It's a win-win. Hilton, for the stay.
From the Fifth Quarter Studios in Madison, Wisconsin, you are listening to High School Hoops with our hosts, Steve Collins and Jake Stager. Unplugged in episode 9 of High School Hoops. Brought to you by the great people over at Dr. Dish. They are our sponsors for the rest of 2018. Go over and check them out. It's a versatile, great shooting machine. The technology, the team management system that they have is unbelievable. The kids can run it through their phones and stuff. The workouts. If you don't have one, you should get one. And mention Coach Unplugged, and you'll get $300 off your next purchase. That would be awesome for you and for us and for everybody involved. So go over and check them out. I know you will not be disappointed. Please subscribe and like. We sure do appreciate that a lot. And the last thing is go over and check out teachhoops.com for coaches who want to get better. I know you're all in the season at this point. I can't imagine a better community, a better set of resources than teachhoops.com. So go over and check it out. 14-day free trial, at least for the time being. I'm thinking of getting rid of the trial, to be honest with you. But anyway, so let's go off to this week's episode. And we're going to talk about roles and goals. I just did a lesson on Teach Hoops on this whole PowerPoint stuff. But anyway, we're going to briefly talk about it here. Here we go. All right. Welcome to High School Hoops, episode 9. Wow, we've gotten to 9. Not quite double digits yet. And it's November. And for some of you, the season has started. It has not started for Jake and I yet, but soon. So these couple questions in November are going to lead into a little bit of the starting of the season and the things that we have. So go ahead, Coach. Let's do what's the topic for the day?
All right, so the topic is going to branch off two other questions in the next couple weeks. It's going to be the how and why series.
Okay.
I know you're all about the why is really important at the basketball aspect. Math teacher and you, just an educator and you, a stat guy. So the why is really important. So I think as we continue to talk about the season, as we go through our season, the how and why of a lot of things we do is really important. So our question today is the how and why of defining basketball roles on your team.
All right. So I'll go through how I've done it in the past, and then I'll have you do it. So, I have role meetings at least 3 times a year. So my first set of role meetings are postseason, where I'll sit down with the kids and explain what their role was, what I see their role being moving forward. If they don't like the specific role that we see them moving forward, that what they can do to change that role. So I think you have to be super honest. It's like, so you say, Johnny, here's where I see you next year. Here's your strengths. Here's your weaknesses. Here's where I kind of see you moving forward. And if you don't like this role, then you have several options. You can work on your role. Here's the skills and the sets that you need to do. Or you can decide to take up curling or something like that, whatever. Seriously. So, I'm very honest with them in that specific role. So some kids decide that they don't want to put the time and the effort to maybe change the role. Some guys are happy with the role. Some people want to expand their roles. So that's the first set of roles. Second set of roles is the week of tryouts. Sometimes before even I'll cut the team, I'll talk to kids about their roles, but definitely as we're picking the team, or we're talking to them. This is where your role is. This is what I see you. Are you okay with this role? This is where we see you now. And roles change during the season. But this is the role that I see you fitting in as we pick the team and as we're moving forward. And I was just talking to Rick Torbert, and he said he came up with an interesting thing that I'm going to have to dwell on a little bit about doing preseason roles. Is like he has some courageous discussions with the kids, and then both the kid and the player and myself would come up with it. And then at the first parent meeting, the kid would get up in front of everybody and read their specific roles. It's an interesting concept. Literally, that was 25 minutes ago. So I'm going to have to dwell on that a little bit. But I mean, that's interesting in the sense because it leads into the third time I do my roles, and that is post-Christmas break, where over Christmas break, the coaches and I and some of the players sit down and talk about specific roles. And then we type up roles for everybody in the entire program and hand them out. Explaining, what the manager's role is, what my role is, what the assistant coach's role is, what all the players' role, and we hand them out to all the kids so everybody can be on the same page come, the push toward March. So there are basically 3 times that I think it's, at least in my program, that we've done roles. We do one after the season's over. We do one preseason as we're kind of picking the team. And then initially when I started coaching, we didn't do it mid-season, but it's like roles change. Kids get hurt. Kids start playing better. Kids start playing worse. Things happen. So that's kind of where my program and I have done roles. What about you, Coach?
I think I look at that question, and it's a very broad question. And I even did some research before I decided to talk about roles, and I just searched basketball roles within the internet, and most people look at roles as positions, and I don't think that's really the set we're trying to talk about.
Right.
We've had discussions about it too, and I think we can go.
I don't think I mentioned positions once in my little spiel there.
No, but I think that's something to address and talk with our listeners. Is that when we talk about roles, it is not a positional thing. It is more. I think it'd be, as we continue, if you could give me some examples of some of the things or criteria that you give for certain kids for roles, because the out there liars of what most basketball coaches say is roles are really defined by positions, and I think the game has gone into a positional list game where the 5 best players are on the floor.
Right.
So I think we got to clarify that so listeners know that we're not having you try to create roles.
Hey, Coach, I hope you're enjoying listening to High School Hoops, brought to you by the great people over at teachhoops.com for coaches who want to get better. Go over and check them out. I don't think you'll be disappointed. Resources, videos, handouts, practice plans, mentors, a community like nothing else. It's Netflix for basketball coaches with office hours and one-on-one and my email address. So go over and check it out. A special discount to the High School Hoop listeners. Type in school and you'll get 10% off on limited time. So go check that out.
Create roles, so you're putting limitations on who you're putting on the floor. I think that's really important.
Yeah.
I also thought it was funny, your remark about curling. I read an article about LeBron James. If you don't like what your role on, he was talking about his AAU team, his son's team. And he says, if he told the players, if you don't like your role on the team, go play tennis. So that mentality is in
oh, wow. I've never been compared to LeBron James. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah. I'm glad I could boost your confidence up tonight. So I think honesty is huge with roles, especially you get some older kids that are on the team, and we've talked about this too, about just having sure numbers in a smaller school is having those roles and embracing those roles as well. So you have a senior that maybe not playing a lot, but maybe you can define a role where he is a leader, and there's a difference between being a leader and a captain. We can talk about that. That's probably a whole nother different
podcast probably. Yep.
In itself. But the big thing that I was concerned about is when we were talking about this was, this is not about positions. This is really about how you can – I define roles as a time to set limitations and promote strengths for players and within your team. I think that's what roles are really defined in.
Say that again.
I said it's a time – it's an action or time to set limitations and promote strengths for each player to increase the strength of your team. So you're helping them evaluate what they're really good at, what they can do, and some of the things where they have to set limitations so your season can move on in the right direction.
Right.
And you talk about like the 3 phases. We never, the other thing too is don't let roles just don't define one person as your scorer. If you're looking at the game now, it's really about balanced scoring attack. I mean, my 2 worst years of coaching high school basketball is I had one scorer each year on those 2 teams, and we were so easy to defeat because we only could have one guy that could score.
Right.
Now, did I really define him as a scorer? But I know that some people will define certain guys as your scorers. I think you've got to be careful.
And that's important. I think it goes back to your first point too. It's like when I'm talking about roles, I'm not saying your role is to score 23 points.
Right.
Or these kind of things. It's like I'm talking, and some things are specific, like literally, like I'll tell a kid you should get 3 or 4 offensive rebounds a game. There are some things that I'm trying to move them toward. But when I talk about roles, it's like, maybe and it's no difference between the 14th kid on the bench and the kid that's scoring the most points. It's like, well, your role might be to bring energy to practice every day. Your role might be to make sure that the other guards are making sure that they're getting up the proper reps in the pre-practice. Your role, so I'm giving, and obviously I have some generic ones, like everybody that's kind of a quote-unquote point guard or brings the ball up. I have some specific things that I really want them to do as far as setting up our offense, knowing more than their position, those kind of things. So I have some generic things that I have for each of quote-unquote the positions, 2, 3s, 4s, 5s. But within those, it's like then you have to go look at the specific kid. It's like, it's like an individual education plan for everybody. Swear to God, it is. It's like, this is what I expect you to be able to do, and this is where you're falling into the category, and it's like you might be the 7th man to start, but that doesn't mean you have to be the 7th man all year. I can think of a couple kids in the last couple of years that didn't like their roles, didn't like where they were, and went and did something about it. And then the roles changed. It's like that's where I think that going back to that third point is you got to be brutally honest with them, because it's a really long season.
Yeah, and or if a kid really has some substantial goals for their next season, you have to be honest with them and say, well, where are you now, and where do you need to go with that?
Right,
and help them achieve their goals.
Right.
In regards to, I went down here. The last thing I talk about is there's 2 roles that I think a lot about is somebody bringing up the basketball point guard play. I think that's a very defined role.
Yep.
And one that is always an unsung hero. You always got to have some guy that can be a really good lockdown defender.
Yes. I'm telling you, I mean, 2 of them are in the NFL, or at least on practice squads right now that I've had. One
of them is playing for the Badgers. He's playing tight end.
He's pretty good.
He's pretty good too. Yeah. I said, yeah.
But he told my wife, I said, he could score those kind of things. But Jake would run through a wall for me. I'm telling you right now. Crazy. But he just bought in. He wanted to play with his friends. It was important to him. There wasn't, football was his thing. But that's important. You got to kind of read along those things. So I think that's important. And again, I think it's really important for the listeners to know that roles are not specifically one, you're not my 2-man and then you're done with it. You have to be,
or you're just my rebounder. Well, guess what? If you really want to be good, everybody has to rebound. Okay?
Right.
Everybody's got to take care of the basketball.
But you can set within your roles, you can set some goals too. Those are things like your goal is to get 7 rebounds. Your goal is to, take 2 charges a game. You can put goals within your roles. But
and it goes back to that idea of promoting the strengths of the players. So creating goals within your role, as you were rhyming before, is really what it's about. You look at, all right, this kid can really crash the boards. Let's have him strive for 3 to 4 offensive rebounds a game. And so I think that's really important as you start to define roles for your players within the season.
Awesome. All right. Anything else on that? I think that was good.
No, just remember, it's really not about positions. It's about evaluating each player with their strengths and weaknesses and then helping them get there. And it's only going to make your team and don't forget your managers. Don't forget your assistant coaches.
Everybody should have a role. I'm telling you.
And I think it's okay for the players to know that everybody on the team has a role, even their coaches, because it really brings a sense of community and family into your program. I think that's a great.
And it goes to the trainer that you see every day. It goes to these things. It's like, are you saying thank you to the managers who are doing all this work behind the scenes? Are you doing all this kind of stuff? So, all right, perfect. I think that's good. All right, we'll talk next week. Good. All right, bye-bye. Hey, everybody. I hope you enjoyed that episode of High School Hoops and Coach Unplugged. It is super important to be able to talk about roles and kind of where everybody fits into your team and stuff like that. So, again, make sure you subscribe and like. We sure do appreciate that. And also make sure you go over and check out teachhoops.com for coaches who want to get better. 14-day free trial. I know you can all use a mentor and resources, and there are plenty there. So go over and check it out. All right. Have a great week.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.